Is social media harmful? That's the question being raised and debated. My next guest published an essay in The Atlantic this spring that went viral. It was titled, "Why the Past Years of American Life Have Been Uniquely Stupid." And in the essay, Jonathan Haidt argued that American society today is akin to the citizens of Babel in the days after God rendered them unable to understand one another. He got pushback from Meta, Facebook's parent company, and others contending that academic researchers haven't yet reached a clear consensus on the issue. Well, in a new Atlantic piece, Haidt compares that response to the tobacco companies who kept claiming that science about smoking and lung cancer wasn't settled either. In Yes, Social Media is Really Undermining Democracy, he lists many troubling instances of how social media has polarized and inflamed America and why we need to address it now instead of passively waiting for researchers to reach a consensus. Jonathan Haidt joins me now. He's a social psychologist at the NYU Stern School of Business. He's also the co-author with Greg Lukianoff of The Coddling of the American Mind. Jonathan, welcome back. Causation or correlation? How can you so easily weigh in on one side, not the other?
Well, every social scientist knows that correlation doesn't prove causation. So first you have to look for correlation, and there's plenty of that. Teenagers began to get incredibly depressed and anxious, basically in 2013, the year after they got on Instagram. Democracies began to get more unstable and more polarized around 2016, basically as political life was moving on to social media platforms. It's very hard to do experiments. We can't manipulate societies here, but we can look at the pattern of findings. There are also experiments on bringing people into the lab and exposing them to news. If you look at the pattern of findings, you actually can tease out alternative hypotheses to what's happening.
I know you're at work on a book on this very subject, and I look forward to reading it. You kind of gave us a sneak peek back in the spring with the initial Atlantic essay. I thought it was great, but it was deficient in one way. I thought that you had underplayed the role of cable television news and media, polarized media, in bringing all of this about.
You're absolutely right. And that is Facebook, their director of research, made 3 arguments against me. That was one of them, and she's right about that. I did underplay it. Now, if we're talking about the degree to which left and right hate each other, that's affective polarization, that begins rising in the late 90s, and it's just kept going up and up and up. So if we're talking about that, then you're right and she's right. I did mention it in the original article, but I should have emphasized it. But here's the thing.
So go ahead.
It's very hard for us to do anything about cable TV, but social media we can do a lot about, and Facebook itself has done it. And actually, here's one of the experiments. Facebook itself has tweaked the algorithm to reduce polarization before one of the elections, and then they put it back up. Well, why can't they keep it down?
Yeah, Frances Haugen, the whistleblower in Facebook, I think illuminated on that very issue. What can we do? Instead of waiting around for Facebook to fix it, what's the message to those of us who consume social media?
So everybody has to realize we're all being invited in to talk to each other in the middle of the Roman Colosseum. This is not normal conversation. These platforms are not connecting us. They're bringing us into the Colosseum so we can fight and broadcast and preen and dance around so that the people in the audience have something to look at. It's a sick game. It sucked so many people in. We've got to stop it. Refuse to fight. Refuse to go in. It's useful for some things. For example, you yourself, you use it on the program. You can get quick feedback on Twitter. So it does have uses, but we need to use it in ways that advance our goals, not their goals. So be compassionate, be moderate, don't give quick takes, never attack people. It doesn't do what you think. All it does is generate engagement and content for the platforms.
Can I just take the final word and say that I speak all over the country, knock on wood, I've never had an unpleasant personal encounter with someone who disagrees with me, and there have been many. I compare that to, people in social media, they get beer muscles. The anonymity of social media somehow empowers people to be nasty and maybe, going old school the way you had to sign your name if you were going to publish a letter to the editor in the local newspaper. Maybe there's a lesson in that. Food for thought. Jonathan, can't wait to read the book. Thanks for coming back.
My pleasure, Michael.